All right, let's talk about another instance of plutocratic, mind-blowing, mind-boggling, stupefying corporatism. Tax cuts passed that apply only to the 5,400 richest families and add, I don't want to misspeak here, $269 billion to the deficit. The U.S. House of Representatives ignored a threat of veto from the White House and passed legislation that repeals the estate tax that hits inherited assets worth $5.4 million or more. This was passed on a basically partisan 240 to 179 vote. The Republican-backed bill goes to the Senate. Democrats are expected to use procedural hurdles to block it. And even if it passes the Senate, it would probably not have the 2/3 majority needed to override a presidential veto. It's unlikely this will happen, but it tells us a lot about what House Republicans are interested in. Few Americans pay the 40% tax on assets above $5.4 million, which is the exclusion threshold. There's about 5,400 estates, equal to 0.2% of taxpayers who will owe such taxes in 2015, but the impact would be huge. It would boost the federal deficit, which the right claims to be very concerned about, by $269 billion over 10 years, according to Congress's Joint Committee on Taxation. This is happening when food stamp cuts are being discussed. Other benefits are being cut, possible disability benefits, etc. Many states are getting rid of what remains of their safety nets. Proof, Lewis, that both parties are not the same when we look at this partisan vote. 3 Republicans voted no, only 7 Democrats voted yes. Big difference among Republicans and Democrats here.
Very big difference. And, looking at the estate tax, it's something we wouldn't need if we properly taxed people. If the richest people were taxed the appropriate amount, this would be unnecessary.
No question about it. We could restructure and make tweaks to the income tax code. We could revise capital gains slightly.
Right.
We could look at increasing certain caps or moving the caps for certain deductions. There's a bunch of small tweaks that could be made to not require a 40% tax. But we have to remember that if you focus in just on one law, one provision, it's very easy to try to point out how absurd it is in this sort of vacuum. But the vacuum, as Lewis points out, is not the right analysis that needs to be done. We need to do a contextual analysis of the tax burden. And we're going to have a story later this week, actually, about the tax burden on the rich versus poor, Lewis.
Yep. It's just fascinating that, I guess both parties can be guilty of this, but especially the Republicans, no long-term view on how this will affect our country at all.